Mercury, the planetary messenger, is finally stationing direct in the sign of Leo, August 11th. Mercury retrograde is over. Hooray! Hello, my name is Eliane Nicole. I'm your astrologer and tarot reader, and in this video, I am going to talk about what it means that Mercury is stationing direct after being retrograde in Leo since July 17th, 2025. But the pre-shadow of the retrograde season started June 29th. So in this video, I'm going to talk about what all of this means. I'm going to talk about which signs will be affected the most personally by the stationing, as well as the journey direct as it goes towards, finally entering Virgo in early September. And I will talk about the important aspects that are being made with this Mercury stationing and moving direct. And finally, I'm going to take it through all 12 rising signs so I can talk to you about exactly which house in your chart Mercury is stationing, what the overall Mercury story may have looked like for you, and what this next resolution period from August 11th to August 25th may look like as Mercury goes into, retroshade and the shadow period ends. But before I get into all of that, did I say I'm taking it through all the 12 rising signs at the end, so stick around for that. And I will put chapters in the description notes of my YouTube so that after you watch the introduction, you can skip forward and just listen to your rising sign. You can listen for your sun and rising. If you have a day chart, you can listen to your moon and rising if you have a night chart. And if you don't know your rising, listen for your sun. It's still accurate information as I'm not going to explain why, but if you want to know why, contact me for reading. Anyway, yeah, if you're watching this on YouTube, please make sure that you're subscribed to the channel. Please hit the notification bell so you're notified every time I post a new video. Please like, please comment, please share. It helps me in the algorithm and to grow my community and my business and my channel. And it puts me in a position to continue to give these free astrological offerings. I'm really, really, really trying to get up to 1,000 followers on YouTube, 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. That's the proper language for YouTube, it's subscribers. And I'm at about 894 right now. I would love to get to 1,000 by the Libra equinox. Can you help me? If you're watching this and you haven't subscribed, can you please subscribe to my channel? And if you are a subscriber, can you share it with friends who you know love astrology so that they will subscribe to and help me get to 1,000? I love astrology. I love doing astrology, but I really need to expand my client base in order to continue to maintain a living doing this, mystical, divine art that I so love and sharing it with others. So I'm asking you to please help me out to this end. And now, without further ado, I'm going to get into the translation. And did I mention to book a reading with me? I'm putting a link in the description notes below. Mercury is stationing. I am a very mercurial person. Mercury is my chart ruler, so I am kind of a Mercury expert. So you're in the right place to learn about Mercury retrograde, or Mercury stationing direct rather, is what I'm talking about today. But yeah, so Mercury is stationing at 4 degrees 15 minutes Leo. So obviously this is very personal to Leos, particularly Leos who have planets, personal planets in the first early degrees of Leo. This is going to be very personal for Leo risings because it's happening in the first house of your body and yourself and your personality and your thought processes. Mercury in general, for all of us and everybody's chart, has to do with our intellect, our mind, how we think, how we speak, how we listen, how we learn. That is how that's how we experience Mercury personally, is very important. In the world, Mercury has to do with our communications, whether that's verbal communication, written communication, you know, any other kinds of communications. You know, it has to do with mail, it has to do with deliveries, it has to do with packages, but it also has to do with text and emails and letters, you know. Mercury has to do with merchants, it has to do with marketplaces. Mercury is anywhere where things are busy, like the airport, the train station, the bus station. All of that stuff is under the domain of Mercury. Mercury even rules braiders or people who work with their hands in any kind of intricate ways. All of that is under the domain of Mercury. If you are a Gemini rising or a Virgo rising, you are Mercury ruled, like me, because I'm a Gemini rising. And so Mercury is your chart ruler. For you, Mercury transits are always going to be more personal. You are going to be more sensitive to the energies at work because Mercury is your chart ruler. If you are in a Mercury perfected year where Mercury is your time lord, then any Mercury transit is going to be very specific and expressed personally for you. If you don't know about perfections or time lords, contact me for a reading and I can let you know who your time lord is for your current year. But the chart ruler is something that's lifetime, and the time lord switches from year to year and is always interacting with the chart ruler because the chart is always king or queen. So, Mercury stationing direct means that in general, you know, the communication that you've been waiting for that hasn't come, it's coming. You know, the package you've been waiting for, it's coming. If there's been a slowdown in some kind of contractual negotiations, now things should start to move forward. If there's been some kind of weird scheduling issue that hasn't been able to come together, it's going to be able to happen now. You know, that's the kind of thing that Mercury direct starts to kind of relieve from the Mercury retrograde period. Also, if there was like miscommunications or arguments or misunderstandings, that should start to resolve now that Mercury is going direct. So in general, this is good news for communications and for, you know, all of that kind of scheduling and travel plans in general. You know, I will say that as Mercury stations, he kind of sits on that 4th degree. The technical date of the station is August 11th, but Mercury is sitting on that 4th degree from August 8th all the way until August 14th. So when Mercury stations, it means it appears from the vantage point of Earth that Mercury is sitting still in the sky. You know, I always feel that I need to repeat this just in case anyone new is watching. Astrologers know that when a planet is retrograde, it is not really moving backwards in the sky. It's an appearance from the vantage point of planet Earth because of the speeds that the planets are circling the sun. And that appearance from our vantage point as Earthlings has a very significant oracular meaning from a divinatory perspective. And so that's why we always talk about retrogrades. And the station, I feel like, is the most potent part of the entire retrograde period. The station when it's going direct, the station when it's preparing to go retrograde, which we experienced on July 17th, 2025, in the case of this Mercury retrograde in Leo, that station is really important, I think, in letting us know what the retrograde's going to be about, you know. But the station going forward is really important in letting us know, like, you know, everything that we've gathered from this retrograde experience, it's really drilling down on those lessons, on those points of reflection, on those points of revision, on those points of whatever we were doing in the sphere of intellect and writing and conversation and making plans. You know, Mercury has so much to do with the plans we're making. And as Mercury goes back and forth, you know, people change their minds about things. You know, that's one of the biggest things that happens with Mercury retrograde. And again, the pre-shadow started June 29th. So people were making decisions between June 29th and July 17th that they didn't change their mind on when Mercury went retrograde. And now Mercury is going direct. They will be changing their mind again on the plans as Mercury goes forward. That's why astrologers say, it's during the Mercury retrograde period isn't necessarily the best time to sign on the dotted line or to, do something that you want, make decisions that you want to have the lasting power over time. Because when Mercury goes direct, again, we often think of things, see things, factor in things that we weren't factoring in the first place. And, minds change, plans change once again when Mercury goes direct. So there's a lot between August 11th and August 25th where, plans that were made between July 17th and August 11th could come undone. They could change, they could rearrange. That is very typical. A lot of this Mercury retrograde in Leo has so much to do with matters of the heart, creative, authentic, self-expression, stepping into the spotlight, legacy. Leo has to do with children. It has to do with playfulness. It has to do with performers of any kind. Leo has to do with comedians, royalty, celebrities. So Mercury in Leo, the retrograde period was so much about a reflection on what our heart really wants. Some people were reflecting about, maybe stepping into the spotlight in a bigger way. Some people might have been reflecting on things with their children. Some people are reflecting on old loves, old romances. There are a lot, some people are reflecting on legacy, and these are a lot of the themes that have been going on for people. Not all of the themes, but these are a lot of them, and you can extrapolate from there. So the retrograde was very much of a reflection period, and that's what it was for people who were making a lot of plans during that period. A lot of them are going to change or come undone because that wasn't what that period was for. So it is what it is, Mercury stationing now. As he stations, things may come to a standstill from the 8th to the 14th. So don't expect the effects of Mercury moving forward to really start showing up until August 15th. And then he'll still be in retroshade until August 25th. So until August 25th, I think that there still may be some unraveling and unpacking of what was happening from June 29th through August 11th. And so we have to be adaptable and prepared for the changes and plans and itineraries and scheduling. And, maybe we're realizing, hopefully any big decisions that were made during Mercury retrograde in Leo may be coming, unraveling or changing or altering as Mercury moves forward and gets out of shadow even more, and then moves into Virgo, where he's going to be so much more clear of a thinker. So a lot is going to change about how we're thinking about things going forward a bit. And so I want to take it through the 12 rising signs because I think that that's how it gets really specific. There are two main aspects that Mercury is making as he goes forward, and they're both sextiles to Mars. And I find this very interesting. It's a sextile. Sextiles aren't usually the planets that astrologers place the most emphasis on in readings because they can be subtle. They're not one of the major aspects, but they are of the nature of Venus. So they can be relational in nature. They can also be harmonizing. They can create opportunities, or they can be gentle suggestions from the universe for something that's helpful suggestions from the universe. And so Mercury, as it stations direct, is making a sextile to Mars in Libra on August 14th at 5 degrees, and then again at August 17th at 7 degrees, which is because of the speeds of the planet. So I feel like it's a very interesting little dance happening between Mercury and Mars from August 14th through August 17th. And so I think it's a more impactful sextile than usual. This aspect is going to be the most pronounced for anyone who has sun, moon, or rising anywhere from, let's see, I'll say 1 degree Leo or Libra, all of the way up to, the first, if you have planets in the first decan of Leo or Libra, this will be a personal planet, a personal transit for you. And if you have it in any of the fire or air signs, this is going to be very uplifting, very stimulating, it can be very flirty and fun. This is going to, for the fire and air signs, I think you'll really enjoy this little do-si-do that Mercury and Mars are doing. Leo and Libra can have a lot of fun together. It's a fun dynamic. They enjoy themselves together. They both like parties. They both like being social. They're both talkative and energetic. They can be very creative together. There's a really great creative simpatico between Leo and Libra. So I see a lot of that happening, for the Leos out there. It may be happening with the Libras in your life. For the Libras out there, it may be happening with the Leos in your life. But even if you're not a Leo or a Libra, this energy is present for all of us. And it's fun, it's smart, it's clever, it's witty, it's creative, and passionate, good energy. So that's the 14th through the 17th. But again, now I'm going to take it through the 12 rising signs so you can see where Mercury, we can talk about your Mercury story. So for Aries rising, your Mercury retrograde story was in your 5th house. This is the house of children, but it's also the house of pleasure and fun. It's the house of sex and affairs. Sometimes it can have to do with nightlife. Sometimes it can have to do with gambling. It has to do with our hobbies. And so you may have been experiencing some reflection in any of these areas. Mercury retrograde sometimes brings back old lovers. For people when it's traveling in their 5th house, sometimes it brings back old passions or hobbies or things that you used to do for fun in your childhood. Sometimes, for some Aries risings, this may have been a time of championing your inner child and revisiting your inner child and finding out what it is, getting back to what it is that brings you joy and pleasure in life. So there's different ways that it could have manifested for Aries rising, but now that it's going direct, it's kind of like the resolution to whatever that story, that retrograde story was for you. It's like right now as Mercury sits on the 4th degree on August 11th, although it's kind of there from the 8th to the 14th at that same point, it's really drilling down on you what it is that you want to take from this period forward with you. And for you, it's creating a sextile to Mars in Libra in your house of relationships. So it looks like there's a real opportunity for you to really kind of absorb these lessons, really kind of absorb these relational lessons, what your heart wants in terms of relationship, marriage, long-term commitment, long-term business partnerships, long-term creative collaborations. You know, this is really kind of what this next direct phase is going forward for you. You know, and like I said, if there's any communications you've been waiting for, or you know, packages or deliveries, or there's lingering negotiations or anything like that, all of that stuff should start to straighten out as Mercury moves direct through the end of August. But the retrograde period doesn't end until August 25th, so be patient for any of the trickster stuff that Mercury might have done during retrograde to resolve. And Aries rising, book a reading with me. Link below in the description of my YouTube. For Taurus rising, your Mercury retrograde story has been in your 4th house of home. And so, you know, for some, maybe you were away from home during this period. For some, you know, you may have been reflecting on things about your children and the home, how that relates to home in some way. But as Mercury is stationing direct, you're moving forward. And so, you know, you're making decisions about how you want to move forward with things about your living situation, possibly your parents, possibly the bloodline, possibly your ancestry, possibly just more about your inner world. It can literally have to do with your heart, or what your heart's desires are more metaphorically. But whatever it was, that story, it's moving forward now. And as it stations, it's forming a sextile with Mars in Libra. And so it's giving you an opportunity to, this is good news for health, I think. But it's also, you know, it could be, you know, good news around employees or staff or coworkers. But it's presenting an opportunity for you to improve your communication with your staff, with your employees, with your coworkers, whatever applies for you. It's also giving you an opportunity to improve your communication with your healthcare workers, doctors, trainers, any of your 6th house people. It could mark an improvement in the health of your small pets in some cases, because Mars and Libra also rules small pets. And it can be an opportunity to really refine your daily routine, especially as it relates to your home, your family, your parents, your health, all of these topics. For Gemini rising, Mercury retrograde was in Mercury and Leo is in your 3rd house. And so the retrograde period was a lot about reflecting on, you know, your neighborhood, maybe your siblings, maybe writing or communications that you're doing, maybe childhood friends, things like this. As it's going forward, you're getting some clarity on what this reflection period was all about, perhaps. Gemini rising, as Mercury stations you in particular, because Mercury rules your 1st house, you may feel it in your body. You may feel tired. You may feel sluggish. You may not feel like moving or going out anywhere. That's completely normal. Mercury is stationing from, the exact station is on the 11th, so that's the most intensity of the transit, but it's been on the 4th degree, August 8th. It will be there until the 14th. So if you're feeling it in your body, dear Gemini rising, that's normal. You may need to let yourself rest, You can't fight the currents of, it's all geometry and rhythm and vibration. That's what this whole shit is. Like, that's what it is. And, we do much better when we go with the current and with the rhythm instead of fighting against it or dancing out of rhythm. Anyway, I went on a whole segue journey there. Sorry about that. I am a Gemini rising. I'm very mercurial, and it's very difficult to record a video as Mercury is stationing, but I'm showing up and I'm doing it anyway. So as Mercury goes direct, Gemini may be making some different decisions about the neighborhood that they live in, or decisions around their siblings, or high school. You know, the third house is high school, elementary school. It's short trips, you know, travel. It's the axis of travel, and the axis of knowledge is the third, ninth house. So Gemini risings might be, you know, changing their plans, travel plans. They may be changing, you know, school or education plans. Things like that could be changing for Geminis as Mercury goes direct again. And there's a sextile with Mars in Libra, the 14th through the 18th. And so there is an opportunity for better communication with your children. There is an opportunity for great communication with your creative collaborators. There's an opportunity to, you know, have fun, stimulating, engaging, uplifting conversations with neighbors, with siblings, with lovers, with, you know, people you enjoy being around. So yeah, that's Gemini rising. Cancer rising, Mercury is in your second house of money and resources. So this Mercury in Leo retrograde period might have been reflecting on your money and your resources, or reflecting on your values. And now that Mercury is stationing and going direct, you're going to be moving forward on some of these things that you have been reflecting on over the past couple of weeks. And the sextile with Mars is in your fourth house of home. So there's an opportunity to make some really great, you know, financial decisions around your home and how you want to move forward with, you know, your home, real estate. Could be the fourth house, your parents, your bloodline, your ancestors, the homeland. Yeah. For Leo rising, Mercury in Leo has been in your first house, so it's very personal to Leo rising. As Mercury stations on August 11th, you may feel it in your body. You may feel still, like you don't want to move. That is normal when Mercury is stationing in your first house. Even though the highest intensity of the station is August 11th, he's sitting on that 4th degree of Leo, August 8th, all the way to August 14th. So if you have a rising anywhere from 1 degree to 7 degrees Leo, you might really be feeling the station in your body. It might be bringing things to a standstill in your life, literally or metaphorically, and that's completely normal. It will pass. As Mercury starts to move forward, you are going to find that your thinking is more clear. You're going to find that your conversations and words are more clear, that you're wanting to be more social and interact with others more. Things are going to start moving forward where it was tough to make decisions, where there were any contracts or negotiations that were stopped up. Things will start to move forward. If there were things that were lost in the mail, they may now turn up. Scheduling plans, travel plans, all of that kind of thing that was kind of complicated and weird, it may now start to sort itself out and get a little bit easier. But give it until August 25th. Be patient. Mercury will still be in retrograde through August 25th. But in general, it's forming a sextile with Mars in your third house. And so it looks like you're going to have an opportunity to maybe meet new people in your neighborhood, or meet new people at school, if that's applicable to you. You may be meeting new people while you travel, but it looks like an opportunity to engage with others and meet others in a space of either, you know, elementary school, high school, your neighborhood, you know. It's also an opportunity to connect with your siblings in really positive ways, and a great opportunity to plan short trips. or to, you know, so all of that is happening for Leo rising, and I may have left some things out, and it's a good opportunity for writing projects. The 14th through the 18th is a really good time to work on that. Virgo rising, Mercury is in your 12th house of hidden enemies, self-undoing, prisons, confinements, institutions, fun house. But during the Mercury retrograde period, you may have been unpacking some unconscious material, some things that are repressed or suppressed. You may have been dealing with some deep, dark memories, or you may have just been, you know, remembering some traumatic experiences, possibly. All of this can come up with Mercury in the 12th house. Mercury in the 12th house can also have to do with others and, you know, people who are talking behind your back or communicating behind your back. So some of that might have been going on. But as Mercury stations, it's drilling down on whatever that is, and it's creating a point of now moving forward with that topic. And as it does so, it will be forming a sextile with Mars in Libra the 14th through the 18th, and that's going to be very helpful to you in making some important financial decisions that are going to be very beneficial for you moving forward. So that is that was Virgo rising. And now for Libra rising, Mercury, this is a very personal transit for Leo risings. Mercury is in your house of friends, business associates, colleagues, networks, groups, subcultures that you belong to. It's also known as the house of hopes and aspirations. So for Libra rising, you have been reflecting on these areas of your life over the past couple of weeks, and now as Mercury is stationing, you're knowing more how you want to move forward. But as Mercury stations, it may create a standstill or the most intense period of this reflection that you've been going through. Or for some people, it's been revision or revisiting something, you know, remembering, reflecting, revising, reviewing. Those are all the rewords for the retrograde period. And in your house of friends, it has a lot to do with your friendships and relationships for Libra rising. But Mars in Virgo is also newly in your first house. And really the only significant aspect that Mercury is making now that it's moving forward is this sextile to Mars in Libra in your first house. Now Mars in Libra in your first house, Libra risings, I did a Mars in Libra video, so you can go back and watch that, and you should, because Mars in Libra is very personal to you. But I talked about how you might be during this transit feeling more frustration or edginess or irritation or, you know, shorter temper with others in general. However, this Mercury sextile to Mars in your first house is giving you an opportunity for there to be some really nice heart-to-heart communication with a friend where there may have been some tension or edginess, or where you've been experiencing some frustration in the friendship dynamic. Maybe it has to do with the balance of the give and take, or something else. But it looks like you were going to have an opportunity on the 14th and the 18th through that whole little period to communicate in a way that is really, you know, positive and helps with more forward positive momentum in the situation. And so that's for Libra rising. And again, it could be Libra sun as well, especially if you have your sun in those early degrees of Leo or Libra. I'm talking about Libra right now. But this is a Leo-Libra relationship we're talking about, so it's very personal to Libras, to Leos. Okay, now, Scorpio rising. Mercury is in your 10th house of career and attainment. And so the retrograde period probably had to do with some reflection, some revision, some reviewing or redoing, whatever the rewords were for you that was happening. And now as he stations, things may be coming to a standstill. Don't worry. It could feel like a standstill in communications around something to do with your work or attainment or business from the 8th through the 14th, with the most intensity on August 11th. But after the 14th, everything's going to start to, fix itself. Communications are going to clear up. Answers are going to come. Things that were lost will be found. All of that kind of stuff. And as it forms the sextile to Mars in your 12th house of hidden enemies and your blind spot, you may see something that's been going on behind the scenes that you weren't aware of as it relates to your workplace environment, your career, your status, your reputation. All of that is 10th house stuff. That Mercury-Mars sextile has the opportunity, you have an opportunity to find out something that's been going on behind your back or behind closed doors that relates to you and affects you. And again, it's a sextile, it's an opportunity. So you have to kind of know where to look. Contact me for a reading, dear Scorpio rising. Scorpio rising really needs a reading, man. I love readings. I read on Zoom, so I can read for people anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world. I would love to read for you. I feel like in a couple of these readings, I really see Scorpio rising, it being a good time to check in with the cosmos and check in with the planets and strategize. Okay. Sagittarius rising. Mercury is in your 9th house of spirituality and religion and higher education, international experiences, cross-cultural experiences, international travel, broadcasting, publishing. The 9th house is a very lofty house. There's a lot. The 9th house is also our belief systems, and so the retrograde period could have had you reflecting on all or one of those topics that I just brought up, and now that he's stationing, things will start moving forward. I will say for Sagittarius rising, Mercury retrograde in the 9th house, that is a travel house. And so it may have been messing with your travel plans. They may have been hard to schedule. There may have been delays, postponements, whatever. All of that is going to start to straighten out. You're going to be able to move forward with those plans. For people who were experiencing more the spiritual side of the 9th house, it may have been maybe a crisis of faith or a crisis of consciousness that you were working through. And now as it's stationing, may be the most intense, toughest part of that. But that's because the darkest hour is before the light. And as it starts to move forward, it's going to start to all make sense, and you're going to be able to really integrate everything that has been going on in your spiritual, religious kind of reflective world since the end of June. For people with publishing or broadcasting, you may have been experiencing delays or postponements, like in when things are going to happen or be released or whatever. And all of that scheduling kind of stuff should start to straighten out now as Mercury goes direct. If you're experiencing it in the higher education realm, for some people, if you're a professor, it could have been trouble with a student, or if you're a student, it could have been a miscommunication or misunderstanding with the professor, or something that's very difficult for you to learn or to wrap your head around. And now that Mercury's moving forward, again, all of that kind of stuff is going to start to straighten out. However, the most intense period, don't think just because Mercury stations on the 11th and everything immediately clears up. No, it's stationing on the 11th, so that actually may be the most intense, potent, most difficult period. But it's also signifying the time where things are going to start to move forward, and we're coming out of whatever the, a lot of Mercury is so mental, but it also has to do with scheduling. A lot of it is scheduling that can be very frustrating at times because our lives are scheduling and making plans, right? So, anyway, that sextile So it's in your 9th house. I talked a lot about that. The sextile with Mars, the 14th through the 18th for Sagittarius rising, is giving you an opportunity to clear up communication with friends where there may have been a miscommunication or strife. A chance to clear up, travel plans with friends or for groups and organizations that you're a part of. A chance to, if you're a part of a religious group or organization, again, all of this is like you're clearing up communications with friendships or groups or organizations that you're a part of. And, the 11th house is also the house of hopes and aspirations. And so for some Sagittarius rising, I feel like that Mercury retrograde and the Mercury stationing direct in the 9th house, sextiling Mars, is really giving you a clear sense of your new direction aligned with your spiritual values, So like there's a new dream emerging and it's based on who you are now, based on what you've kind of gone through in these past weeks, months, even, so that's, for Aquarius rising, Mercury is in your 7th house of marriage and long-term commitment, long-term partnerships. So for many Aquarian risings, they've been reflecting on their marriage, issues of communication with your spouse, and for Aquarius who are single, you might have just been reflecting on, what you want in terms of a long-term relationship. And now as Mercury is stationing, it may be the most intense period of that reflection, but it's also signifying the time where you are starting to move forward and understanding kind of more what your heart wants going forward. And the sextile with Mars, which is in your 9th house of your belief systems, spirituality, religion, higher education, international travel, cross-cultural experiences, broadcasting, publishing, it's creating an opportunity for you to bring together your relationship with those topics. So communicate about those topics and align on a direction forward in those areas. For Capricorn rising, Mercury in Leo is in your 8th house. So you may have this has been a financial Mercury retrograde going back over finances, maybe joint finances, your spouse's finances, your children's finances, your parents' finances. It could be that you've been going back over situations with the IRS or any kind of investors, loans, taxes, debts. And now that Mercury is stationing, it may be the most intense period of that, but it's also signifying the time where everything is going to finally start to move forward. But you have to be patient and give it a few days because we're not out of retroshade until August 25th. And Mercury is basically sitting still the 8th to the 14th. So once the 15th comes, Mercury will start clearing up any miscommunications or vagueness or misunderstandings or things that weren't clear in the topics of other people's money. And it's forming a sextile with Mars and Libra in your 10th house of career and attainment, August 14th through August 18th. And so there is an opportunity to clear up some communication where there may have been tension or a fight or something within the workplace, or it's also giving you an opportunity in some cases to clear up something around your reputation or your status. And finally, Pisces rising, Mercury has been in your 6th house of health. And so you may have gotten some health news that was uncomfortable to deal with, that has had you reflecting on how you're going to be moving forward with your health going forward, or how you're reflecting on your daily routine. It won't be health for everybody. For some Pisces rising, it may be something to do with a coworker, or if you have staff or employees, it could have to do with your own staff or employees, that something that came up. but now it's going to be clearing up as we move forward. But there is an intensification of the of what this whole period has been about. It's really the August 8th through the 14th is drilling the lessons of our reflections or whatever happened during the retrograde period in for us. And the 15th, things start to clear up and move forward, but you have to be patient because it won't be out of shadow until the 25th. And then the sextile is forming with Mars in your 8th house. It just looks like there's an opportunity for support, financial support from others around topics of your health, your children, things to do with your day-to-day life, your coworkers, your staff, your employees, whatever. And so that's all the rising signs. I took it through all the rising signs. I did want to do a tarot pull, but I didn't bring the cards with me, and so no tarot pull today. We're going to cut this video short. I'll definitely have the cards with me next time. Thank you for joining me. It is a 45-minute video. Dang. I've got to figure out how to make these shorter, but I really want to give to each rising sign. And thank you so much for joining me. Please book a reading with me. There's a link underneath to get to my website and book a reading. You can also email me if you have any questions or want to book directly with me. That's fine too. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a wonderful Mercury direct in Leo. Rest of the season. We're almost done.